And we're live. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial Channel. Today, Josiah, Kelly,
Kelly.
and we're here to share our Amazon profit loss statement from the month of July. We haven't done this in a while. I think about a year ago,
Yeah.
we shared the breakdown from our Amazon business and from our Turo business as well. Maybe back in October.
Sounds
Actually,
about right.
yeah, about a full year ago. So you can go check out those numbers and see where we've come since then. But today we're going to share July's numbers for Amazon only. If this is interesting to you, definitely subscribe because we're going to start sharing this a little bit more often. We're going to do July, then we've got August and September for Amazon, and we're going to share some of our Turo numbers from over the summer. We had a pretty good summer with our 5-vehicle fleet. Anything to share on that?
No,
All right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, let's get started. Let's see. So, the month of July on Amazon, we had a total revenue of $66,948, almost $67,000. One of our highest months to that point. Most of 2022, we've been in the 60s from January through this month of July. So this being a few thousand higher than the previous months. This will give you kind of a bit of a picture what the first half of the year looks like for us. And if you subscribe for our future ones, in August we did about 82,000 in revenue, so a good jump. And then in September, about 102. So if you're interested in seeing how the revenue and profit changes, stay tuned for those. But today, about 67,000 in revenue.
Quick question. You said, just to clarify for those watching, you said in this year, typically up through July, and then obviously starting like August, September, it skyrocketed. What were roughly your average numbers back in 2021 versus 2022?
Yeah, revenue numbers in 2021. I know that I can look briefly here on the app. In November of 2021, we hit 55,000 revenue, which was quite a bit higher than our average months that year. Most of our months in 2021 were $30,000 to $40,000, somewhere in that range as far as revenue. So we've seen quite a bit of growth this year.
Yeah, so that's nearly double.
Yeah, like
compared to the average month back in 2021.
December 2021 was 33 revenue, 33,000, and October 41, 42. So quite a bit of growth, and some of the ways we've grown in that is switching to more of a online arbitrage model using a prep center. That's helped us scale and just do more quantity of inventory, kind of delegating out a lot of those processes and allowing us to free up more time for ourselves to do those high value tasks, searching for new ASINs and new inventory. So let's get started. In general, when I say revenue, $66,948 revenue, that's the total number of sales. That's not how much money that Amazon even paid us. That's not how much profit we had. So we're going to go through revenue minus our expenses for that month, and that'll give us our bottom line net profit. So we already talked about that total sales number. Now, with any business where you sell products, there's going to be returns and refunds associated with that. For the most part, as an Amazon seller, especially when you're doing FBA, you don't have too much control over Amazon's process for that. Amazon's very customer focused. And so we had $6,085 worth of refunds. Some of those might have been order cancellations of customers. Some of them might have been unhappy customers because the product wasn't what they expected. I honestly don't know. I don't really dig into that stuff too closely.
Or sometimes you don't have a say. Amazon just decides. So.
Yeah. There is a way to go into your Amazon dashboard and see the reason that each customer has left for why they wanted to return it. And some of the reasons are legitimate. Sometimes it's just customers saying they accidentally ordered it. it didn't fit them, and et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that's our refund number for this month. A little under 10%. What is that? Maybe 8% there.
Is that your normal average?
I think that's about the percentage that we average. Yeah, yeah. And I think from talking with other Amazon sellers, I think this is about on par
Yeah.
for most arbitrage type sellers. So subtracting those refunds, that brings our total sales to just under 61,000. Next, the huge expense that we always have every month is the cost of goods. And there's kind of two parts in that, the way that I break it down. One is the Amazon fees. This is what we pay Amazon for using their warehouse, for them fulfilling the products to the customers, and also just for being on their platform. So we pay $39.99 every month for a professional account. And then on top of that, all these fees are associated with actions we take, items we sell. There's different fees, items that sit there in their warehouse for an extended time, there's storage fees, and it goes on from there. There's a lot of fees. As you can see, that's nearly,
Right.
well, not quite a quarter, probably about 20% of our total revenue for the month, and that's about normal. They take a big chunk, and I know a lot of newer sellers are like, "Oh, there's no money to be made because of all the fees." Well, honestly, if you took that same inventory and tried to sell it somewhere else, like say eBay, you'd probably be selling it for 30% less,
Right.
and you wouldn't be able to move nearly the volume because there's just not the same number of eyeballs in demand. The next one there on that line is the cost of goods sold. This is the cost of the inventory that we purchased that sold that month. So in order to sell $67,000 worth of inventory, we had to purchase almost $31,000 worth of inventory. And that might sound a little confusing, but we paid $31,000 for the stuff we sold, and when we sold it, we got 67,000 in sales. So there's a lot of cost of goods there, right there, almost 45,000 between those two lines.
So to clarify, for those potentially wondering, is the COGS, is that the from last month's stuff or this month's? Like, or excuse me, specifically for July.
Yeah, this is specific to July. So if $1 is counted here as a cost of goods sold, that means that that was $1 that I spent on an item at some point. Doesn't matter when I bought it, but that item sold in the month of July.
Gotcha.
And that's
So that same item that sold in July got the cost of what you paid for it to originally purchase it, whenever that was, whether that was July or earlier, that got counted in July.
yeah, exactly. And so subtracting those costs of goods, that gives us a gross profit of about 16,000. Now we have a few other expenses that we're going to get to on the next page. That's going to bring that down a little bit. But these are the bulk of the expenses, and we use Inventory Lab to track these. I really like Inventory Lab, and for a while I wasn't using it, and I was just kind of winging it and kind of honestly guessing what our profits and numbers were. That was a huge mistake in hindsight. So Inventory Lab does a really good job of tracking our cost of goods as well as the Amazon fees, and that's where the numbers on this page really come from. And I'll drop a link to how to sign up for Inventory Lab if that's something you're looking to add to your business. Now we have our additional expenses. These are things that we track in QuickBooks. They only hit our bank account. They're not running through Amazon or Inventory Lab. The first one is we have one employee, a virtual assistant. She's overseas in the Philippines, and she's full time, and we pay $400 a month for that, plus a little bit of transaction fees for paying her. And that's been a huge benefit to our business, helping. She does mostly the lead sourcing of new inventory, and a little bit of upkeep of different spreadsheets to help us track stuff. Next line's a pretty big line there, subscriptions and insurance. So we have our business insurance, which is a small portion of that, and then a lot of different subscriptions. There's a Discord group or two that I'm in that help with being in a community where I can ask questions or people share different leads back and forth. And then the bulk of those subscriptions is different softwares. We've got QuickBooks, Inventory Labs, Keepa, RevSeller, Repricer, Be Cool, and let's see. There's quite a few. It's probably about
Would that also
10 or 12
count
subscriptions.
QuickBooks? Would that count QuickBooks?
Yeah,
as well?
QuickBooks. Yeah, some of these are subscriptions that I pay once a year, and some are an every month kind of thing.
Right.
Next line there, assorted supplies. Some of these are office supplies, like some boxes and tape, or like some computer parts, things like that. And that last line there, shipping/prep center. Since we've been utilizing a prep center, most prep centers are $1 to $2 per item that they prep for you, and you pay that however often they want you to pay it. I think this month I was at a prep center where we paid once a month or twice a month. I think twice a month. So we paid them about $800. So if I had to guess, they probably shipped $600 or $700 worth, or six to 700 units for us there. And what's up, Cisco? Good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. Got a question from you. Do you include gas and meals while you are sourcing? That's a great question. I would. I don't think we had any meals this month. And
That's unfortunate.
yeah, I do track my mileage. I don't have that in these calculations, but honestly, both of those categories aren't too much for us, since I do mostly online arbitrage right now. I'm not driving around too much. When I drive somewhere, it's to the post office usually. And recently I've been doing a lot of pickup requests for the post office. So I don't do very much business mileage right now.
Do you remember though back in July? If we
Yeah,
did,
no,
I still
no.
don't think we did back then.
Not much then. And so I guess we didn't have any business related meals this month either. Because if I did, they would be in here somewhere. Good question, Cisco. How do you track your mileage? I know that you do a little bit more retail arbitrage than I do. Do you just combine it all for at the end of the year for taxes, or do you try to count that into your monthly numbers? I'm curious. All right, here we have the final net profit. So our total sales after all those refunds, 60,000. Subtract the cost of goods and the expenses, brings our net profit to $14,000. So I'm really happy with that number. Let me see what that is as far as a net ROI. So
yeah, that was super exciting.
14,000 divided by 67,000 brings us to a net ROI of almost 21%. That's a little bit higher than some of the other months I've looked at. I think our average month is between 19 and 20%. So we must have had a couple ASINs that had better ROI than others. And Cisco says QuickBooks can track it. I just leave the tracker on the app. Yeah, I know what you're talking about for the mileage. I did that for a little while, and it just wasn't working super well for me. I think because the number of trips I was doing for this business, retail arbitrage wise, were so slim. It was like, I don't know, 5 to 10% of the trips, and just wasn't worth it. So right now I just jot down in my notebook when I make a trip for that business. So that's our total profit there for that month. I know previous months this year, like January through June, we were closer to the 11 to 12,000 profit each of those months. And I just got our numbers back from August, and I'm excited to share those soon. That was when we did 82,000 revenue. So a nice little jump up. And then I look forward, haven't gotten the completed numbers back for September, where we did just over 100 grand. but I'm looking forward to getting those back from the bookkeeper too. Definitely annoying splitting between personal and business. Absolutely, man. Yeah. And a big struggle I have is we've got a couple businesses.
Yes.
So there's really 3 different ways to split it. And so I think every year, every 6 months, I change my method because it's hard to keep track of. Right now, just using a little logbook. Hey, on this day, I did this route, and it was for this business. So if that was helpful to you all, and we share these numbers not to like brag and look at how much money we're making, because honestly we didn't pay ourselves 14 grand. We paid ourselves a percentage of that to cover what we want to have a comfortable lifestyle, but a good portion of that, since we're still trying to scale this business, we left in there and we spent on inventory the next month. Any other thoughts on that, Kelly?
Other than maybe to say, I mean, you guys can do this too. I mean, have we explained that in a while? Like how we started just from like growing this from like just a couple $100s. And then like letting it just grow for a few years while you were in the military, and then coming back and like coming to a month like this. Like this was your biggest month. I mean, we've had bigger months since, but back in July, like that was the biggest month since like in a long time. So I don't know. You guys can do this too. It's not. That's our encouragement, is not to show off like what you were saying, but just to say like, hey, like if we can do this, you guys can do this.
Yeah, and I've had a number of people asking me recently, like, hey, it feels like I have a ton of expenses in my Amazon business. Like, what expenses do you have? And so this was one way to kind of answer that question. Like, other than first, you've got the inventory purchase, which should be everybody's biggest expense. If it's not, and you're in a sales type business, I would say you might be doing something wrong. And then the next is these kind of miscellaneous expenses here. And I know, I think compared to a lot of people, mine are lower. I know a lot of people doing numbers in closer to $100,000 per month, have multiple VAs, or they leverage different methods of debt, and so they have interest or paybacks to that. We're doing this all cash, so our expenses look fairly simple, because in general they are. We spend a lot of money on inventory and a little bit of money on overhead stuff, you could say. So pretty soon here, we're going to get together our Turo profit numbers. What was our highest month, Kelly, revenue wise?
Revenue, I think it ended up being, it was July. It was July. I can pull
That's
that
right.
up,
Yeah. Same month as these profits.
And I think it was 17 or just over 17.
Yeah. So July, we purchased our 5th vehicle, and we got it listed at sometime that month, and we hit.
Oh, it was almost 18.
We hit almost $18,000 in revenue. And since all those vehicles are purchased in cash, we actually have, like, we own them all outright. Our expenses for that business are pretty low. So a good amount of that there is profit. So look forward to breaking that down for you. I had a lot of people ask me recently about Turo and what's kind of possible with that.
Right.
And then, just subscribe, like, and comment. If this was helpful, send us a note. You can find both of us on Instagram. That's the best way to reach out to us if you have any questions. At baconbagel_AK and
at jellybagel_AK.
I'll put all those links down in the description. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks.